Hey everybody, I'm Matador here with...
HipsterMermaid!
And welcome to another episode of Balance and Bullshit. Today we're going to talk about cheat meals, or more accurately, how that's kind of a bad thing to be calling them. There's nothing wrong with it, really, but it's just not the healthiest mindset to approach your eating habits with.
Yeah.
One thing that we've talked about is that we kind of started calling them, we heard people calling them flex meals instead of cheat meals, which just seems a little more appropriate to me because we just kind of need to get rid of the idea that you need to punish yourself for eating something more indulgent, or that you need to make up for eating something more indulgent.
Or that anything that you're eating could be like a horrible detriment to what you're doing.
Because there's nothing wrong with eating something more decadent every now and then.
Right.
In fact, you'd probably go crazy if you didn't. I mean, we have more decadent meals fairly often, I'd say.
Yeah.
Not too often. It's important to remember that you shouldn't be eating super decadent meals or things that you think of as being very indulgent too often.
But that's a point we're going to get to.
Yeah, exactly. But there's nothing wrong with them either. There's nothing really wrong with doing that sort of thing. Because if you're on a good fitness regimen, and if you take care, if you watch what you eat most of the time, and if you reasonably take care of yourself physically, then eating something more indulgent isn't going to count against you. It's really important to remember that.
Yeah.
And it kind of took a while for us to remember that, or for me at least. I don't know how it was for you, but because
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, because when I was in college, in particular, I ate like shit all the time. I ate horrible. I mean,
horribly.
Like a lot of college students, because I mean, you have available what you have available, and
Which
you
is
have
junk
the money
food.
that you have, which is not a lot. At least for us, at least for me. Not a lot of money available, so you have what you have, which is Pizza Hut and Quiznos.
And the only reason we had Pizza Hut and Quiznos was because you could buy those with cafeteria dollars.
Yeah, with the school money that they gave you. So I just used that, and I ate what I could, which was absolute junk food. And so for a while, I was not looking that good, but then I started eating a little bit better, started working out. But like a lot of people, I didn't quite know how to approach that idea. I kind of came at it with the idea of, oh, well, this junk food is just bad food, which, to be fair,
It is bad.
a lot of commercial junk food is actually really bad for you. But that doesn't mean just because there's something wrong with, just because getting Pizza Hut is not a super good thing for you, doesn't mean that doesn't mean there's something wrong with eating pizza.
Right.
And just because Taco Bell is an absolute travesty to put into your body doesn't mean that, dense, indulgent Mexican food is a bad thing. I wouldn't call Taco Bell Mexican food, though.
No, it's not.
By any stretch of the
It's
imagination.
fast food.
Yeah. So really it was more fast food that I had the problem with. But even after I figured that out, I tried to eat, I guess, just quote unquote healthy. I tried to eat like that, and the assumption is you have to eat like that all the time. That once you transition to a healthy lifestyle, you can't allow yourself indulgences because they're bad, because then they hinder your progress and you have to make up for them. You have to atone for your sins.
Yeah.
Which is not the case. It's not the way that things need to work.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you go for it. I was going to just tangent. I lost my train of thought 5 minutes ago.
Okay, well, the idea of cheat meals in fitness in particular is when you're on a fitness regimen, when you're getting healthy, when you're making your diet a lot healthier, a cheat meal would be like, well, I'm going to have fried chicken tonight. And a lot of people will call that a cheat meal. And I think what we're getting at here is most people will still do them. Most people will still have cheat meals, but it's kind of a dumb idea to call it a cheat meal because you're not cheating on yourself. You're not cheating on your body or on your fitness regimen by having something a little bit more decadent. That's why we like the idea of flex meals, because this doesn't completely jive with your fitness regimen. It's not part of the chicken and rice for lunch meals that you have been doing. It's a flex. It goes a little outside of that, but it doesn't derail you.
It doesn't run contrary.
That's the important thing, is when you use words like cheat meals, you think I'm going to put it, since it sounds bad, there's a tendency to go, well, I'm just not going to have a cheat meal. I will not have a cheat meal. I refuse to have a cheat meal. I absolutely refuse to have a cheat meal. And then you push it off and push it off and push it off, and then you end up binging on cheap food, which actually does hinder your progress. Or you say, okay, well, I was good today, so I'm going to have a cheat meal, tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you have a cheat meal and you're like, oh, well, that wasn't a big cheat meal. I'm going to have a cheat meal tomorrow too. Stuff like that. So the wording behind cheat meal kind of is a psychologically sort of negative and unhealthy place to come at it from. So when you think of it more as a flex meal, you think of it as it does run in line with your lifestyle, with your healthy meals, with your fitness program, whatever it is. But it's just a little deviation outside of that path that you've set for yourself.
It's stopping on the road trip to like look at that one random weird landmark that exists in every state.
Yeah.
When that you really don't need to. It kind of slows you down a little bit, but it doesn't like, you don't run in the opposite direction. You haven't lost progress on your trip.
Yeah.
You just kind of took a little stop to have some fun.
And there is a risk if you just completely absolve from those kinds of meals altogether that you'll, like I said, end up binging. You'll end up crashing. You'll end up completely screwing up your entire progress. Now, that's not to say that people who completely cut out unhealthy foods, are doomed to failure. That's not true at all. There are some people who are very committed to eating only specific things forever, and they hold to it, and kudos to them. I'm not one of those people. If I don't have caramel corn every now and then, I kind of lose my mind a little bit. And I haven't had a donut in like 3 weeks, and it's kind of driving me insane.
It's a problem. And like I'd say the cheat meal that we indulge in most often, probably like every week or so, like we just go out and get Thai food. It doesn't have to be something super decadent. Like it doesn't have to be like, and it's probably best for you if it's not like 6 donuts at a time or something. Yeah. I don't know, like there's a place here that serves donuts topped with fried chicken and waffles and stuff like that.
It's awesome.
You don't need to do that for a flex meal, but just like going out and getting some nice food that you're not necessarily trying to fit into your fitness plan for yourself. It doesn't go against what you're trying to accomplish, but it doesn't necessarily fit into it. It's just fun. It's just something that you enjoy getting.
Because here's the thing. And this is just my personal experience. When I first started my fitness program, it was very, very strict. The diet that went along with it. It was like no sugar, whatever, for the next 12 weeks. And I was like, cool, whatever. I can dig that because I don't drink sodas and I don't really eat candy or anything like that. But what fell into that were like little desserts every now and then. And I didn't realize how much of a sweet tooth I had until suddenly it was cut out of my diet altogether. And here's what happened. I stuck to it religiously for like 5 weeks. Absolutely no desserts, no cheats, no flexes, no anything. And I had an absolute mental and emotional breakdown because I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable because we would be eating, good meals, and I just wanted to have a good evening and have like a sweet little dessert. Like not anything huge, not half a cake, not, an entire pint of ice cream. I just wanted like one little teeny bit of chocolate maybe, or like a handful of caramel corn, like literally a handful of caramel corn, or one normal donut, like not from a donut store, not from like Voodoo Donuts or somewhere that's super decadent, like a gourmet donut. Yeah, I just wanted a little glazed donut, but like I couldn't have it. So I had an absolute breakdown, and I realized I was so miserable.
And there are only so many times that you can make rice pudding for someone in that situation. It's just putting off the inevitable in that point, because like rice pudding is good, but
by the way, rice pudding is like a little bit of milk, some rice, and some like sugar and butter, and it's like a tiny sweetness, but it's like carby. So that was the little sweetness to stave off for while I was making protein shakes at night to stave off the sweet tooth, and that just wasn't doing it.
It got to the point where I would like hand you a thing of rice pudding, like, here you go, babe,
and I would
just glared at me.
I would start crying, like I was absolutely miserable. So what I needed to accept was the fact that like just because my fitness program said no sugar, no sweets, no nothing, doesn't mean that that's the Bible. Doesn't mean that that was the end all be all. And ultimately, I was so miserable, not enjoying little things out of life, that it didn't end up being worth it for me. And what I ended up needing to learn from that is one little teeny deviation from your plan every now and then. 90% of the time you're on your plan, 10 to 20% of your time, it's okay to have that little deviation, and it's not going to derail you. It's not going to hinder your progress. It's not going to be the end of the world. You don't have to make up for it in the morning by working out extra hard. In fact, that can be way, way detrimental to your progress. It can hurt you badly. So, your body is made to digest food, and food of any kind is still food. So it does its job. All you have to do is establish in your body, establish a pattern that it recognizes. This is what we're doing. We're working out, we're eating good. then if you have like a little speed bump, that's cool. It knows to go back to the pattern you've set for it, which is work out, process the food exactly how we have been doing it, move along.
And you actually made a very nice segue into my next point. You're talking about like 90% of the time you stick to it, and then 10% of the time you don't, because that was what I was going to talk about next, is that it kind of depends on who you ask. Like some people say 90-10, and some people say 80-20. I think 80-20 was the first one that I heard. But it's one of those theories, something along those lines, that basically 80 or 90% of the time you stick to whatever diet goals you set for yourself, whatever nutrition plan you have for yourself, you stick to that 80 or 90% of the time. And then 10 or 20% of the time, whatever you eat during that period doesn't have to count against you, because that's not the way your body works. It's not going to suddenly decide to take a massive step backwards. Like your body's not going to be like, oh, you ate, I don't know, what's a good example, like a single bowl of ice cream. Now, I'm going to give you that spare tire that you got rid of, or say goodbye to your bicep muscles after that one, after a single donut or like a s'more.
And if it helps you think about it in terms of percentages, 90% of your week is, or 10% of your week is one meal. So one decadent meal.
Per week.
Or you could break it up a little bit more into, okay, I'll have a little snack every now and then. Like every 2 days, I'll give myself a small dessert or something like that. And it changes from person to person. I know a lot of people who have been on fitness programs for a long time, and they eat cinnamon rolls constantly. And it's just what they do. And that's just their treat to themselves. But they also
work out a
super
lot.
lean meats. They eat a ton of vegetables. They're really good to their bodies. So it all boils down to what's best for your body and what's good for you and what makes you feel good.
Yep.
You know, donuts make me happy every now and then.
And I don't know, like I just kind of felt like talking about that for some reason, like because I've heard people talk about cheat meals a lot, and it just has such a negative connotation to it. Like there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing wrong with people who call it cheat meals. Like I know The Rock calls them cheat meals, but if there's anybody who's earned the right to call them cheat meals, it's The Rock. If you don't follow him on like Instagram, just go and check it out and like look at the things that he calls cheat meals. I'd call that cheat meal. I wouldn't care. He's allowed.
His cheat meal is like my entire caloric intake for like 5 days.
It's like your head's worth of pancakes. That was amazing.
So ultimately, what we're wanting to get out of this is express the idea that if it bothers you to call them cheat meals because it makes you feel guilty to have a cheat meal, start calling them flex meals.
Be nice to yourself.
Because the last thing you want to do is feel miserable about the things that you're doing and the things that you're eating, and that they're important to include in your regimen. Like it's important to give yourself forgiveness and give yourself some slack.
Because fitness and taking care of yourself should be fun. It shouldn't be a punishment. It should be something you do to prolong your life and to enrich your life. So thanks for listening to us talk about that, and we'll see you later on this week with another Balance and Bullshit. See you guys later.
Bye!
If you do too much cardio at too high of an intensity, then you can like negate any muscle growth that you would experience. Like if you do a lot of like if you do a lot of very high intensity cardio, like basically if you overdo cardio, because you got to remember